Calling the meeting to order at 5:30 p.m. This is the Board of Directors special session school board meeting for Monday, September 25th, 2023. Welcome to all of our visitors, guests, and media. As always, we're going to start tonight off with roll calls. Mr. Felt here, Mr. Burns here, Ms. Danielson
Here.
Ms. Schultz
Here.
Ms. Naton
Here.
Mr. O'Neill
Here.
Mr. Schuler.
Here.
All right, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, first item on the agenda is motion to approve the attached agenda and addendums.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Burns, seconded by Ms. Naton. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. Motion carries. Next up, item 3, the public hearing, which is going to be a presentation of proposed property tax abatement by the representative from Baker Tilly, Mr. Fetters, and the finance director, Ms. Rader.
Hi, I will ask Ryan Fetters to come up.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm Ryan Fetters, and I brought some guests. So this is the first time. We had an incident at daycare today. A couple of teachers resigned. So this is the way it is. So they're going to get to see what Dad does tonight. So thank you for being patient with me. And they're great kids. So my name's Ryan Fetters. I'm with Baker Tilly. We've met a couple of times before. Tonight I'm here to help you through understanding what is before you tonight with a couple of resolutions. With regard to one, we're going to be looking at the resolution to establish the abatement area, which we'll get into at the presentation. As we talked about, it's the same presentation that we had last time. I'm here to answer some questions, and there's a bit of some cheat sheet or cliff notes I sent around that I hope after the meeting, I know there was a lot that I went through, so I hope that explained a few things. I'm happy to answer questions as those arise. Oh, thank you. And so we have that before us, and should that be set up and the board were to move forward with issuing tax abatement bonds, we also have a parameters resolution, which is the resolution that would set the maximum parameters for the bond issue. And this is a little bit different than maybe in the past. You've had a set sale resolution, I think, in the past, perhaps, where we fix it on a certain date. What's nice about the parameters resolution, given what's going on in the economy and elsewhere, we are allowed to move the sale date as needed. So we're not anticipating having that happen, but if we have a set sale, there's more publications and it takes longer. So that's why we're going through this. And with the parameters resolution, you will set the maximum. So there'll be a maximum TIC, true interest cost, of 5.25%, which is in there. Also be setting the maximum par amount, which is the $7,695,000 we talked about. And then the final maturity, which is in that parameters resolution, of not to exceed the February 1st of 2038. So that's all that is, and that would allow you to have to move forward and authorize those bonds. But as we mentioned last time, before we get into the resolutions, we should talk a little bit about what it is that you're doing. And the brief overview is, again, the district has parking lot improvements, which MDE allows us to issue these abatement bonds for. And that's the only interpretation they have for abatement bonds is parking lot improvements. So with this establishment of selecting 800 parcels, which is done based on proximity to the project, and we're looking to support the abatement, the annual abatement that is required to finance the principal of the $7.695 million bonds. This is purely administrative. So in keeping with the statutes, you have to select those 800 parcels that we've determined have sufficient net tax capacity to support the annual abatement. And then the levy, which is a new levy, right? Because this abatement is a redirection or redirecting of a new levy to finance these improvements, right, the bond. So that levy, which is then calculated into a tax rate, is levied among all the taxable property within the district. But we need 800 parcels to show that we can support that abatement. And those 800 parcels, we try to keep it at a minimum of what's needed so that that preserves the district's future ability to issue or, set up another abatement area should you have more parking lot improvements. Or if the laws change down the road as to what you can use abatement bonds for. That's why we do that. And let's see. So having said that, that is the overview. So I'll kind of just skip through some of this, and some of the things I haven't mentioned yet, I'll hit on those, but I've given you the outline of really what the presentation's about. So we've talked about this. The estimated total bonded indebtedness is lower than the amount of the parcels, the net tax capacity required, right, to make sure that we have enough to fund that. $7.695 million bonds. The first debt service payment is scheduled in the 2026 payable year. And so that's the first debt service payment to be levied. Now, you're going to have a couple of payments, as we've seen, right, that's going to get paid out of the bond proceeds. So there will not be a levy. And the important part of this is you're issuing these bonds without having a tax impact, right, utilizing the roll-off of existing debt to finance this. The tax abatement, as the ability to provide this issuance authority, is defined in Minnesota statutes 469.1812 through 1815. And again, these are public improvements that have to show that benefit the property. We are going through the process. You have to adopt the resolution at a public meeting, which is what would happen tonight, should you move forward. And the abatement resolution indicates the terms, the amount, what we've talked about for the abatement, the length, which is the 12 years, just the principal components of that 15-year bond we're looking at, and the public benefit. And it does not require property owner consent. And again, for the property owners, it's just, to my understanding and what I've been able to find, the resolution is all that's happened. I'm not entirely sure that it's even tracked where that's going to happen. So the resolution is what's needed, and the parcels are outlined in the resolution, and that's all that needs to happen to set this up. The parcels that are utilized in this abatement area to support this abatement, when the bonds mature and the abatement area extinguishes, those parcels may not be used again for 8 years. TV man and Captain Underpants. Thank you. We've got code words. So again, we are capturing and redirecting the local share of taxes for this specific use of the parking lot improvements. And we've talked about all these. Oh, another very important part is we can't apply or flag parcels that are in TIF districts. And so that has been taken into account. We've covered that. So none of the parcels they're all residential parcels, and they are in TIF districts. And the maximum duration is 15 years, but we are using 12. And then, of course, the specific uses, as we've talked about, for all of the things that ICS, through the scope and working with the board, you all understand what we're looking at here, having to do with parking lot improvements. And they have to be of a non-aesthetic value. So traffic flow, drainage, safety, lighting, curbs, but not fencing or any kind of beautification for the projects. And so, as we understand, you have curb, sidewalk replacement at the Learning Center and the elementary school and high schools, and we're trying to provide safe, reliable access to buildings, improve traffic flow, drop off and pickup, and basically reconfigure and provide additional parking. So we've talked about, this is to give you an illustration of what the sources and uses would look like for this. If we look at the far right-hand column there of the $7,695,000, we're showing how it would be break down by project: the elementary school, community learning center, and then the middle high school site. And so from there you see, if we look down the right-hand side, the total, and then the breakdowns to the left of what those uses of funds are, which is The majority obviously is going to the project construction fund of the $6.6 million. We have an allowance in there for capitalized interest, and that's those first couple years of payments, right? To avoid having a tax rate increase, it's coming actually from the bond proceeds. And again, we've structured this based on a higher level of interest than what we're anticipating you getting, and that will be determined, those rates will be determined, and the bonds restructured to meet our objectives on the day of the sale, which right now I believe is October 17th is what we're looking at. Then we have an allowance of 1.25% for underwriter's discount, and the reason I say allowance is because they will have a fee, but this is a competitive sale, so the lowest overall cost, interest cost to the district will be the winner. And we're in the environment right now where there is cash being brought in these bids. And so a lot of times we're seeing that the discount is actually taken out of beyond the money beyond the actual issuance of the 7.695. So we'll see and know on the day of sale, but the best overall bid will be what the district gets. And then we're assuming an estimated cost of about $72,000, $71,519 for all the professional fees involved with the issuance. Any questions on that? And then this is what it looks like in terms of if you were to, we issue the bonds coming up soon. So a sale in October, a closing, which is when all the legal documents are signed, and then the money, the transfers occur. That would occur in November. And then we would use capitalized interest or bond proceeds to make payments in 2024 and 2025, which would be interest-only payments. And then principal would kick in and interest in 2026. And right now we have a level structure that just mirrors the underlying debt structure that you have. So there is capacity in a future year here to issue additional debt if the district needs that ability. Any questions on that? So the gray, I'm sorry, I didn't say this. So the gray is the existing debt service, and the blue is the new proposed debt service.
So just to be clear on
Yeah.
that, we're not raising the taxes by doing this. Taxes in 3 years will actually go down a little bit, and this is filling in a portion of that gap, correct?
Should you not issue additional taxes to fill in that capacity? Correct. You would have a step down in the debt service based on this structure. And so you are issuing, regardless, you're issuing this without an impact with this bond. And then future decisions can determine how you want to handle the debt structure, but yes.
Great, thank you.
Yeah. So these were the numbers. They're all important, but because it's a lot of numbers, what I'm focused on when I'm looking at this and trying to explain to the public, it's that far right 2 columns. So the debt service is what it is with the existing and proposed, and the over levy is the extra 5% that the district levies because they levy 105% of the required debt service. So they're going to be just mirroring each other just a little bit higher on the over levy. But the important part is that we are maintaining the debt service, which is what basically you saw here, right? We're not increasing the level of debt service above the current level. And the CIF is a capitalized interest fund that is in that middle column where you see the negative amounts. We're taking that. Those are the dollars that are coming from the bond, and you'll see the total up to the $892,000 at the bottom. That's coming out of the bond proceeds, right? Rather than levying a tax for this first 2 years of debt service. And then you have, as Mr. Burns asked, the drop from 4.7 to about 3.8 there in February of 27, so that's really, yeah. So in February of 27, after we make those payments, you would have a drop in debt service. So again, no anticipated tax rate impact when compared to the current levy, and we're utilizing capitalized interest to get us in the in-between years until we get the step down in the debt service to start making those principal payments. And then the scheduled events where we have been is on August 28th, we called for the public hearing on the tax abatement area. And we prepared, or the district prepared, all the relevant publications of notices required. And where we are today is about in the middle there of the schedule, which is the school board is holding the public hearing on the proposed tax abatement. And then should you move forward and adopt the resolution establishing the abatement area, then you would also consider the parameters resolution I discussed earlier that would set out the maximums for the proposed bond issue. And again, should that move forward, we're anticipating a sale on October 17th, and we would have a rating call later this week in preparation for that and preparing the preliminary official statement to go to banks, then have the sale on October 17th. Then there would be, after we've set those interest rates on the sale on Monday, October 23rd, there would be a ratifying resolution where after we have the results and everything is settled in terms of setting in and negotiating the final terms with the underwriter, the board then takes action to ratify and say, these are the results. And that's what happens on the 23rd, okay? And then on the 16th of November, that's when all the documents will have been signed by that time and the transfers happen, and the district will have the proceeds from the bond sale. Any question on that? Any other questions? I would be happy to answer for both the bonds, whether it's the abatement area or the parameters resolution.
So for the resolution for the property tax abatement and the parameters resolution is part of our regular board meeting. Right now, this meeting is just for the public hearing.
That's correct.
Okay, you give us, it's be the exact same speech
Yep.
later.
This is, and we can, if you'd like me to do that, I'm happy to do that again.
Or is it just more, okay.
It's going to be the same information I gave, so I gave it for the public hearing so that the public knows what is in store.
Got it.
And then if you'd like, I'm happy to give that again for later on. Just let me know.
We've heard it twice now, so.
Yeah.
Third time's a charm, no.
Well, I know the important phrases are Captain Underpants and whatever the other one is, TV Man. So they're probably looking at me now, yeah. So yes, but that's exactly right. And so
Okay.
once you have public input and then close the hearing, then you can take action on what you need.
Awesome.
Okay?
Any further questions for Mr. Fetters right now?
Thank you very much.
All right,
Appreciate
thank you.
it.
Thanks, Ryan.
Next up is the public testimony and comment. We have not had anybody register to speak prior to the meeting. So with that being said, do I have a motion to adjourn the special board meeting?
So, I'll second. Yeah.
Motion made by Ms. Schultz, seconded by Ms. Danielson. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries. Public hearing is adjourned at 5:47 PM.